I'm Clara, the host of Learning Meets AI.
AI is a way to build stuff of your dreams, right? One of the best things to do before you go clicking around is to think about the user flow, trying to see and not get left behind, right? That's the first thing, getting a bit scared. I'm going to try and build an app from scratch.
All right, welcome to Learning Meets AI. This is our third episode, and I'm super happy to welcome Saad, who is a communication skills and persuasion expert. He trains leaders to master indirect communication, learn business language, and excel in persuading stakeholders who don't report to you. So, Saad, welcome to the show.
Pleasure, pleasure. It's good to finally collaborate with you on something after such a long time.
Love that. Sad, before you share your screen and before you jump into what you're building, I would love to understand, like how did you start experimenting with AI before you started building all these cool tools? How did you start experimenting with AI?
And like anybody, I think I was working on trying to see and not get left behind, right? That's the first thing, getting a bit scared. But then it quickly became a lot more purposeful and intentional. So because I do a lot of coaching, I train leaders on how to communicate. I became really interested in firstly reflecting on myself and how would I perform in one-on-one coaching sessions. So I do group sessions as well, but at this time I was very interested in after I finish a session with somebody, I feel like I don't know what I've achieved with them. They go away feeling super ecstatic and they have the aha moments. But because we have to be so switched on, right, when we're coaching, you can't always remember what it is you've done. So I took a transcript of my coaching session with the permission of my coachee, and I plugged it into ChatGPT, and I wanted to calculate one metric in particular, and that was how much did I listen versus speak. And so I played around with some AI tools, including ChatGPT, and calculate effectively my listening time. And I thought this is great. Wouldn't it be great to take that prompt and use AI to basically automate? So every time I do my coaching session, it automatically calculates my listening time, asks my top tells me the top questions that I asked that were great and where I could even improve. And was I challenging too much or was I validating too much? When you're a coach, you're meant to get a good balance. You got to affirm what people are doing, but you also want to challenge their thinking and their mindset and their beliefs. So I basically then turned to vibe coding to help me build that tool that I was doing manually through prompts with ChatGPT and manually creating my transcripts with Evernote AI. I built my own basically tool that could do this for me end to end automated. So that's when I got my first taste of what the possibilities were with AI.
That and like how else are you using AI? Like I understand that you do vibe coding and use ChatGPT, but when it comes to your day-to-day work, as since you are in learning and development, like is there any other ways that you're using
Yeah, I
AI?
use, Gemini, lots of tools where we could create infographics, visuals, frameworks, mental models, quizzes. Um, and I think there's different elements, even for discovery. So when you're working with clients or stakeholders, SME, subject matter experts, you want to make sure that you are understanding their business need behind a training or a workshop. And so I use it a lot for the discovery notes to make sure that it streamlines and summarizes, and then it potentially even suggests workshop outlines for me. So I use Claude a lot for workshop and presentation and kind of workshop activities. And I use it AI very much as a thought partner. So I never let it take over. I always use it to augment or co-create with me. So I think my top tools are those few that I particularly use.
Love that. I'm pretty sure it's going to change in like a couple of months because the tools change super quickly as well. Okay, so what tool or what idea did you bring today that you're going to show us and bring us through?
Yeah, so I'm going to try and build an app from scratch. So it's an idea I've had since before the in 20 sort of end of 2025, and it's been playing around in my head. And I want to build this AI powered tool, which I'll tell you a bit about that in a second. Now, I am going to use vibe coding, a tool called Lovable. But really, what I hope that I can teach people today is AI is a way to build stuff of your dreams, right? So just because Gemini is called Gemini, or there's an AI tool that can read all of your heavy, lengthy documents and produce a deck for your clients, sitting behind that is someone has built that tool. So I don't call those AI. I just call those actual products and services that you can build. So what I'm going to build today, being that I'm a communication coach, one of the things that I do is I help technical people like engineers speak in a non-technical way. So I help them remove jargon from their communication. So engineers don't speak engineering language, and I help them speak more business language. One of the things I do manually at this stage, because AI helps with automation, is I currently ask a engineer to do what we call a record and review. So they record themselves for 5 minutes, pitching a business idea, and that their task is to try and communicate in a non-technical way. What I then do is I turn that into a transcript, and I manually look at the transcript to kind of almost visually count how many jargon words they've used and how they've pitched it, etc. So what I want to try and do is build a tool that can automatically analyze a transcript and summarize through a like a scorecard or a visual card what percentage of words they've used that are is jargon, technical versus non-technical, and what are the top words that they've used that we could replace with non-technical terms. So that's what we're going to try and build.
I love that. And I love the fact that you always wanted to build this and you have the courage. And I think that's exactly the message as well here is that you should have the courage to actually build stuff and build it live. And, it's fine if it doesn't work for the first time. Hopefully it will, but, who knows? But we are embracing this idea of let's build something, see whether it works. And if not, then you go back and you test and iterate. Okay, so the problem you kind of described the problem as well. So you have these like transcripts, and you kind of want it to be analyzed as well, and give you almost like a summary
Yeah.
analysis of like how they are using jargon or just getting the message across as expected. So the tool that you mentioned was Lovable. Have you built any like fun other stuff with
Yeah,
Lovable?
I built a coaching tool, so it's called Coaching Card. And so that one I mentioned earlier, where I can upload all of my audio recordings of my coaching sessions, and it produces a really beautiful summary card of my listening score, of how many questions I asked, how many were open-ended, how many were what I call building on questions, whether I was direct or indirect in communicating. So I've already built that. And so very familiar. Through there, I've learned a lot. As you say, through trial and error, you just got to do it. You just got to go for it. And you make little notes on the side. I haven't watched any tutorials. It's literally learning on the job, learning by doing, which is what I teach others. When I design my practical workshops, learning by doing, that's the best way that I learn as well.
Love that. And absolutely, like I'm right there with you. I think opening up the tool and clicking around is the best way
Yeah.
to start. Okay. Do you want to add anything else before you share your screen? Anything around your thought process or whatever would be helpful for people to understand before you
Yeah, it's a
start?
good point. I'm gonna do live narration, and so you're literally gonna see me build this in a live environment. What I would say is that there's 3 or 4 concepts that I'll introduce people to very, very quickly. One is that before you go clicking around, though, one of the best things to do before you go clicking around is to think about the user flow, the user workflow. So think about if you're going to say make an ice cream, it's like a recipe. Step by step, what do you have to do in order to make an egg or an omelet, right? So you got to take the egg, got to crack the egg, etc. So that's what the user journey is really. How will they see it from their side? And we're going to build that in really 6 or 7 bullets. And then secondly, what you're then going to do is turn that into a what we call a PRD, a product requirement document. And so this is really product language and engineering language to an extent. Once you've got that, we're going to build that in ChatGPT. And then once you've built that, you can then copy and paste that into what I'm going to use, which is a vibe coding tool. And that's dropped into Lovable straight away. And then that will then create, so the third step is then you create what we call a front end design. So when you log onto a website, what you see there is called the front end. The real challenge, the front end is very easy to design. It's a very quick visual. Lovable does that very, very quickly. And you know this because you were on the Lovable shipping cohort. The fourth step is then to build the back end, which is really like the nuts and bolts of the databases and the real thing, that engines behind the scenes that really make it work. So those are the four steps we're going to use: the user workflow, the PRD in ChatGPT. We're then going to move to Lovable and do the front end design, which is the like the website kind of thing. And then the fourth is the back end, and that takes a lot of time in terms of debugging, getting that right. That's where we spend most of the time. So those are the four steps, and I can share my screen now if you like.
Right.
So what I'm gonna do is literally from scratch. I'm gonna live narrate. Yeah. So I'm gonna um, start typing. I was thinking how much should I actually do beforehand, but you're gonna get this really. You're gonna get this live.
Oh, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, I love
So
it. And just your idea is here to use ChatGPT to kind of help you like clarify what you're hoping to get out of the other tool, which is Lovable. So like using AI to use AI better. I love that.
yeah, absolutely. So what I'm writing here is I'm building a tool that helps me analyze my coachees' transcripts to give them a report that helps them see how much jargon and technical language they are using. So that's high level. You've got to be able to get it down in plain English into 1 to 2 lines, and then from there, it kind of ChatGPT knows what it's doing. So the simple user flow is this. Now you remember that that's the user flow that I was talking about. And the first step, if you think about it, what's the first step that I mentioned that the user or my coachees are going to do? The first step is coachee records a video or audio. And I don't to expand that too much. I'll just write, 5 minutes, right? And I'm going to write here offline, not in my app, right? Because I don't want it to feel like, oh, I need to create a PRD, a tool for you that allows you to capture the recording. No, we're not gonna do that. We're gonna say Coachy uploads the video, audio into my tool. Then we're gonna do the third step is my tool automatically transcribes the video into a transcript. Now, because I happen to be in a transcript-based business where, if you remember, I took that my own coaching sessions, which are 60 minutes long, that's me live having a conversation with my coachee. I learned a lot about transcripts. So what I'm gonna say here is key speaker names, diarization, which basically means who's speaking when, timestamps. That just basically means that it's gonna be a full-on transcript. And I could also say search for Zoom and Otter technical specifications. Actually, I might say instead of Zoom, I might just say Firefly. Now, Firefly and Otter, as you probably know, you might use them. They are transcription services. So what I'm saying here is I don't want to go into detail of writing full technical specifications. So TSs are a lot of detailed documents in how something actually works. So I'm going to say search for Firefly and Otter technical specifications on the web to get a good quality technical spec for transcripts. Yeah. And then the tool produces a summary card showing key stats like jargon used, percentage. Now you've got to be really clear here about what you want the summary card to show. So in my head, I've already been thinking about it. I want to keep it really simple, visual, clean for the user. So I want to have um, jargon percentage used, top statements, and recommendations. Now it doesn't stop there. I want to say user downloads, and you can see I'm speaking in very active language, right? Coachy does this, or Coachy. I'm using the language interchangeably. So what I might do, just to make sure that I understand and the GPT understands, and that I'm being also very user focused, I'm gonna start using like user language a bit more. So user downloads in a PDF. And there's a term that I used, or I learned, sorry, that when you're building a tool, it makes a distinction between authenticated users and unauthenticated users. And so when I signal that I want this to be for unauthenticated anonymous users without having to log in, that's what it basically means. That because what the tool will automatically assume is that you want people to be able to log in to download something like that. So I'm going to say all done as anonymous users, anonymous stroke unauthenticated user. And or spelling there.
Yeah, it's always tough to spell
I know.
and it's live. Okay,
So
perfect. But
you got
I love that you are bringing us through your whole thinking process of, you don't just start, you kind of start thinking through what do I want this tool to do, and from your perspective of saying the user flow. So what does the user do? What are you expecting the tool to do? So I think this is super helpful in whoever is trying to build something. It's first really thinking it through, like what does the tool do, what is the user flow, and then from there create the product requirement document.
absolutely, and you could take these 6, 7 steps and say you could also ask ChatGPT to do this. So I could have just given this first bit and said, create me a 7-step, 8-step user flow in order to achieve that. I could have done that, but I want to again, that would be over relying on AI. I could do that and then also overlay what I really want as well and make sure I properly edit it because we don't want to over rely on it. What I also realize is that the whole purpose of doing this is to create a PRD, right? A product requirement document. And what I've realized is I actually haven't instructed ChatGPT to do that. And now I could put it at the end at the prompt, but what I realize is that you've got to put that at the start. So the GPT picks it up, right? That's what I'm building, and how I'm doing it is by using the workflow. So what I'm gonna do is help me write a short, because you don't want to have too long a product requirement document based on the below. Yeah, and I will say ask me questions to
Love
write
that.
that out.
One question though, is it by default that you're not saying that you're going to use Lovable? You're just saying I'm building a tool.
Oh yeah, no, don't need to tell it that it's lovable because I see myself as building it. I don't see lovable necessarily building it. I'm I'm the creator.
I love that. I'm just very curious, like why, like because sometimes it could pick up Lovable prompting guides, etc. So really specifically building
Totally.
it for Lovable. But you're saying you are using ChatGPT now to help you with the PRD, and then you are going to put that into
Yeah,
Lovable.
but it's
Okay,
a good point
very
though.
cool.
I mean, sometimes I do use trigger words like lovable to help it, but so far when I built it, I kind of almost wanted to take on the role of a product designer at this stage in building it. But it's a great point. You could absolutely add in lovable. So shall we hit enter?
Nice.
Let's see.
If you feel like
Yeah.
I think it's a good one. It's definitely a good start. So like you asked it to ask you questions, which I think it's a very like a very meta prompt of like what else am I missing,
Yes.
which could be helpful.
Yeah. All right. Great. So
Okay,
let's hit
let's see.
enter, and of course, ChatGPT is very fast, so we shall see how quickly it does for a code.
Obviously loves the idea.
Let's do this in 2 steps. I'll sketch a short PRD structure. And this is great, right? So, I mean, previously I've got this already. So now you could save that, right, as a short PRD structure for the future and just say, write me a PRD using these 8 headings for the future. And then it was
And just for if anyone is just listening, sure. So what we got out is basically a quick structure of a PRD. So a problem statement, target user, goals, success metrics, user journey and flow, core functional requirements, non-functional requirements, what is out of scope, and what are the risk and assumptions. So that's the like proposed structure, and then you also got some questions, I guess.
absolutely, which is here. And I always do that because you want to test a little bit yourself what you're thinking. Um, so here it asks me the first question around problem is who is the primary user? The coachee, as in the user, or me as the coach reviewing them? And it's interesting because I hadn't thought that far, right? Because if you think about it, if I want to leave comments and edit things in the tool, then I am also the user as well, but in the back end. I think what I'm going to do as building just a basic tool or what we call the MVP, right? Like a minimum viable product. I'm just going to say the coachee themselves. So what I'm going to do as I go through, user is the coachee themselves. And I'm not going to worry about, all the grammar and stuff like that because it will auto correct it. How would you finish this sentence? This is interesting. I've never had a question from ChatGPT around this. So how would you finish this sentence? Coaches struggle with, which results in. Okay, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What do coaches struggle with? Tell
Yeah,
us.
so I'm gonna fill this in now. So coaches struggle with communicating their ideas succinctly without expert terms, which results in lengthy presentations to stakeholders, which leads to confusion. I'm gonna add and lengthy presentation. I'm really excited about this because
Nice.
I think this is what I've been trying to build. So that's what we put in. It then asks, is the core problem overuse of jargon, lack of clarity for non-audiences, or misalignment between intention and impact? So I'm gonna say the core problem is all three, right?
Yeah, true.
So I wouldn't have thought about it as misalignment between intention and impact, but that's the beauty of GPT. It's ChatGPT. It's sort of suggesting to me additional things, and you can see I copy and paste and I just tinker around the edges with it. These sound similar, but lead to very different recommendations. So I think what I'm gonna do actually, just to avoid any confusion, I'm gonna delete that third one, right? The core problem. I'm just
Okay.
gonna keep it to jargon and clarity for non-expert audiences.
Yeah, sounds
And
good.
then the jargon detector, right? Critical for credibility. How do you want jargon defined? Look at that. That's so interesting. Because of course the reason why it's doing this is it wants to be able to, in order to define and pick out words that are jargon, it needs to and give me a percentage of how much of a 5-minute presentation recording was jargon. It's got to know what jargon is. And it doesn't want to have false positives, i.e. picking out words that are not jargon, and it's saying it is. So I think this is going to be really crucial, which I had thought about, but not as much here. So I'm going to copy and paste that question. How do you define jargon? Um, this is really interesting, actually. Um,
It's also, like depending on who you ask,
yeah.
because is it more like engineers and technical? Is it, like finance? I can see some of the examples there.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm.
is
Oh,
it more like the technical terms?
so this is interesting, right? So it's making me think of like additional things that have to be in the form. So when you upload, and this is a user workflow coming in. So I think the step that I missed is if you're speaking engineering to an engineering colleague, that's totally fine, actually. But if you're speaking engineering terms to a head of business development and partnership, which is a real use case that I've had with a coachee, that's not good. So the thing that I need to think about now, which I won't spend too long doing, because we're obviously in a live narrated session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to allow the tool add a step in the user workflow where the person confirms their identity and their role, and it will assume that anytime they use language related to their role and industry and profession, that that is a jargon term. So if you're an engineer, it will pick that term up as heavily jargony. So what I'm going to do is write it in plain English. Oh, say, yeah, go on, Carl.
No, I just wanted to say maybe you can say who you are and who you are
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
to. So then if you say like
yeah,
I'm an engineer, and I'm going to talk to the business development people, it kind of
yeah.
helps you pick up the difference between like what would be the jargon for one and for other.
I love that. So that's what I'm going to write now. So I'm going to say who the user is and the job title and professional, and two, who they are speaking to. Yeah.
Okay.
The sorry, something along those lines.
Nice.
So we're going to take out predefined dictionary. We're going to use a selectable domain. Ah, that's the one that he's talking about. Yeah. Use a selectable
Yeah.
domain, i.e., add in the user workflow. That's fantastic. Um, we do want complexity, so it's not just words used; it's
Mm-hmm.
complexity level. So what I have used in the past, and this is just live thinking, like in the workshops when I've delivered, I've used the 5 levels of difficulty. So this is where you explain from a child all the way up to a well, and then a teenager, and then a college, and then a college student, and then up to an adult. So I will say using the 5 levels of difficulty from child to adult show where on the spectrum the user's language sits. So that's a completely new thing
Nice.
that we've come up with. So I'm gonna move on. Do you want the output to say X% of jargon used? What if a jargon used for a non-expert audience? Okay, well, I want the output to say X percentage of jargon used for a non-expert
Mhm.
audience. Okay, how many questions do we have? Okay, so we've got a few.
You have a lot of
We've got a few, but what
questions.
I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the core ones. Um,
Yeah.
how important is accuracy versus speed? Do you want stored transcripts at all? So I'm just going to skip through some of these things. Yes, store transcripts for user only. Because we want to protect data protection. We don't want to be seeing the actual transcripts. Should users see the full transcript? Yeah. So users can see the full transcript. Now, what I can do here is do your best to fill the gaps in knowledge, stroke questions you asked me based on the above. So that's a really cool way. Once I've got the core fundamentals locked in, right? Now I could just rely on it to handle the rest. Um, so bear with me here. And I'm just gonna add
No
here
worries.
Coachy user should be able to see. Um, yeah. All right. So now it's going to write the PRD for me. So this is clear enough to write, not just discuss. I'll fill in the gaps sensibly, keep it short, coach grade, and product real. Okay. Below is a concise product requirement document you can comfortably share with the developer. Now, in this case, the developer is Lovable. So that's
And you.
with me. Yeah, exactly. With me at the helm. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna literally product working name jargon clarity analyzer. So it's even suggested a name for me. I'm gonna literally go down and copy all of this.
Nice.
Uh, uh assumptions and risks. You copy all of this. Now I'm gonna turn over to Lovable. So hopefully you should see the screen there.
Yep.
And now I don't know if there's a new option, but basically previously you could only upload images. So I just put the whole prompt into this interface here. So
Mhm.
copied it. And what I'm gonna go right back to the top actually, which I forgot to add. And I don't need to write this, but help me build a web-based mobile-friendly tool. Yeah. Because an app is a mobile app and it would design it for OS and Android. And we don't want Apple and Android. We just want a web-based, mobile-friendly tool based on the below PRD. Yeah. Right? This feels monumental.
Nice. Let's
It's been
see.
in my head for a few months. It's finally happening. So this might take
Love
obviously a
it.
couple of minutes for it to spool and do its thing.
Yeah. So, what are you hoping to see now that, like you said, okay, you agree with the
Yeah.
PRD? What do you think is going to come out?
So it will Lovable always gets it like 70% to where you need to be. And so what it will first do, and it always does this, it will build the front end for you the most. And what I will then do is once I want to see like it will create like a landing page. So it will say, analyze, bust your jargon and that kind of thing. It will come up with some marketing copy as well. And I want to see a button with an upload icon where it allows literally transcripts to be literally just uploaded or the audio, sorry, to be uploaded. And then a couple of benefits, right? Like underneath, like what are the features and what are the benefits of using this. It will probably add like placeholder text for potential testimonials and things like that. And then the idea will be to see, is it broadly in line? And then I want to see, and actually let me just show you something here. So it will speak to you as well, right? Lovable. So it's saying, I'll build a jargon clarity analyzer, drawing inspiration from mindfulness apps like Headspace and modern productivity tool. That's interesting. I'll use.
Interesting. No one asked that.
I never asked that, and I don't think I kind
Yeah,
of
right?
want that necessarily. But let's see what happens. Clear typography, clean,
Oh,
supportive.
I think it's more for the like how it's going to look like. So the green and sage green and whatnot. So maybe not the mindfulness from that perspective, but just using those
I-
tools as for like the visuals.
which is not bad actually. And what it tells you is it's prioritized. It says first version features, file upload with drag and drop. Great. Speaker audience context form, which is that one where we said, who are you? Are you an engineer? That way, when the AI picks up whether or not it's jargon, it won't pick up. It won't pick up engineering language except if you're speaking to a non-engineer. Simulated transcript and analysis flow, interesting. Summary card, complexity with a complexity spectrum, insights and recommendation, a PDF report download, which is really cool. I'll skip past that. So let me build this step by step. Now, this is an interesting prompt in Lovable. You probably know this. When you say step by step, it's an interesting prompt to any AI, but especially Lovable, where it will work through a bit more methodically. What you'll say, if you say step by step, it's just a trigger word.
It kind of plans it out instead of like jumping on it and trying to do things and then it's not even working. So the step by step, I do use it a lot. It's really to make it kind of think through, and this is kind of like the way of, like almost like choosing extended thinking, like choosing or asking it to think a bit more, think step by step, because then it will think through like, what is my plan, even what am I trying to do.
Such a good point, because what I've done in other products that I've built through Lovable, which I haven't done here, is first I say plan how you will build it. Give me your phases and your steps. And then I will say, don't execute yet. Because sometimes it will build a plan and it will say, and now let me turn to, now that I've done that, let me turn to executing it and building it. But by saying don't execute, it will stick in only the planning phase and it will say, what do you think? Ready to proceed? And so that's the other thing you could do as well, because you could check the plan. It's a bit like when you're coaching people, like how are you planning to approach that conversation with that customer, that tough sales conversation, right? So you ask someone else that,
Uh,
and then they tell you back how they would approach it, and then you can tweak that before Lovable starts to actually build the whole thing. So you're right about
exactly.
helping come up with a plan first.
Until Lovable is still thinking, what is it that you learned the hard way by, like trying these things out and building with these tools?
Well, definitely patience, but also, I think my standards were very high in the beginning. I was expecting a lot from Lovable, and I realized it takes a long time, and you need to really understand the art of and the science behind engineering and coding. Not necessarily coding in a hard sense, but like, what do these things actually mean? So I learned things like, the techniques of how to and when to roll back, which basically means you create versions of what you do, and sometimes if you want to go back to what it was before, you simply are able to roll back. I learned that, like, what it takes to, like, how costly some of these things can be, because you have to have multiple tools doing the database, which is where is the data stored, because it's like an Excel sheet. So you need Superbase for this, and you need what's the other one that I used? Whisper AI, Open AI for Whisper for the transcription. And so I didn't realize just how complex a web it is. And by the way, and it's
And that's why
yeah, that's the plan.
that's why planning is so important. That's why, like, I love that you brought in ChatGPT and had the conversation there first, because if you have that conversation here and you have a version one that is not great, you will spend a lot of credits. And this is something that I learned the hard way. You spend a lot of credits on, like, oh, not this, but that. So,
Okay.
like, planning it before takes a lot of time, or taking some time with the planning is probably a really, really good way to save some of the credits.
Yeah, and I wasted a lot of time, on exactly like you said, just like going back and forth. So before Lovable, I used a tool called Replit, and it was
Hmm.
that's not the best tool, and so I kept getting frustrated. But anyway, it looks like it has produced us something as a starting prototype, and you can see all the ticks here that it's
Nice.
done. The demo currently uses mock data for analysis to make it fully functional with real transcription and AI analysis. You need to connect a Lovable Cloud for back-end processing. So remember I mentioned back-end? Um, so this is just the front end. It may look like it works, but it actually doesn't yet. But here is what the website will look like, right? The landing page. So you got the bit at the top, you got an upload, your recording section tells you, it says maximum 5 minutes. So here's what I've noticed as the first thing. Even though I said on average it'll be 5 minutes, I don't want it to cap out at 5 minutes. If someone done a 10-minute
Yeah.
recording, it won't. So what I'm looking for here is not necessarily aesthetic design. It's not the best actually. But what I'm looking for is, did it understand what I wanted to build and what the user should be seeing? So yes, allows audio and video. Fantastic. It allows MP4 and MP3 and WAV. Great. So it's understood that it's both formats. Maximum 5 minutes is not what we necessarily want. And it's pretty clean, right? Like it's just, you don't want to distract
Yeah.
the user, got no top buttons. I might add a few more things at the bottom here, but I think most people will spend a lot of time on this page. A, because they think that when this page is built, the backend is automatically built. It doesn't do that. What it will do is it will first build your front end, and then you will then need to start plugging away at the back end. So what we
Do you
yeah, go on.
have an audio or video that you can upload here and try it out, or
Well, what I'm gonna do,
that's for the
this is it. So I didn't come pre-prepared with an audio, but here's the other thing that I realized that we should have allowed, which I've done in my other tools, is I also allowed a transcript to be uploaded as well. So if someone has already, used their Otter, they've got a subscription, then they've already got a transcript. They're not going to want to use audio. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go into Lovable now. I'm not going to go to ChatGPT. I'm going to go into Lovable and I'm going to say, also add the option of someone uploading a transcript that they already have, in addition to an audio file and video file. And here's the prompt that I've learned. I'm going to say, do this in isolation.
Love that.
Keep the functionality intact. I love coming back to your question about what did on the hard way. I would make this changes like this, which are so innocent, and it would mess up everything else, all the other features. So by saying
Tell us what this means. So what this means that, like doing it in
so
isolation.
isolation means it will only work, it will ring fence it, it will only work on this feature, and it will not by mistake make any changes to the other code that it's writing in the background. It is writing code in the background, we just can't see it, but it's on another screen. And so that's what that does. That prompt here, do this in isolation, keep the, well, I can do it even more clearer, keep existing functionality intact. That's what I've learned. So we'll add that in. While it's doing that, here's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm gonna GPT as a test, right? So I'm gonna say, write me 500 word transcript, right? Um,
Full of jargon
yeah,
from software engineering.
yeah, exactly. Full of jargon. Write me a 500 word sample transcript. Yep. Where the
Nice.
engineer is working on infrastructure, reliability, building and improving, or rather reducing downtime on a platform that works on for a company.
I love the fact that you are using the tool to, like quickly generate this and quickly try things out. So I think that's also a very good way of thinking about this. You don't have to have this at hand. You can just make ChatGPT write this for you and then get that analyzed.
Yeah, exactly. So here you've got it. It's kind of
Oh, there's a lot of stuff. P95, whatever that is.
yeah,
Okay, perfect.
yeah, exactly. Now, of course, for the transcript, we now want to test does it really pick up the jargon, and this is where the
Yeah.
what's the word? The accuracy is really going to be really important. Does it
Mm.
deliver what we say? So we want a heavy jargon filled one. So I'm just going to take that. This obviously isn't diarized. There's no speakers here, but that makes sense actually because having thought about it, since it's a record and review, it's one way. My coaches are recording this, and they're not going to have an actual person to talk to. So when I said earlier have speaker diarization, that actually wasn't necessary because it's record and review. But that's a hangover from another tool that I built. So I just had too much on my brain at that point. So what I'm going to do now,
It's
um,
okay.
so what it says here is the upload zone now shows all three options: audio, video, and transcript.
Nice.
So you can see that option is there, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. Now it says I'll add the transcript. I'm going to go a bit earlier to where it said to make it fully functional with real transcription AI analysis, you need to connect Lovable Cloud for backend processing. Now, if you're really lazy, you could prompt it, and I don't know if it still does this, but give me the location to connect. Oh, so give me the key even, because sometimes what it does, what's great about Lovable is rather than you going off into a third party app, if it's connected natively, i.e., like Superbase is connected to Lovable, it's integrated automatically. All it will do is it'll say add the thing in. It will give you a window to add it within this left window here in the chat bar. It will tell you just add it here. You won't need to go up into a third party app to do it. So what I'm going to try and do is see if we could do that. Give me the button key to connect to Google Cloud. from this chat bar. Let's see if it does. If not, it will direct me to where it is.
Would you ever switch to chat instead of edit mode and then use that to just ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So that we can do chat without edits to your project, and then
Oh,
visual.
look at that. There's the button.
You see, right? Like it's so cool. Like
Yeah.
bef- before you would have to code. Secondly, you would have to, which is not that bad, right? You'd have to browse around, like where is the lovable cloud icon and stuff like that, which I do know where it is, but I just want to show people that you could do it. And you see the prompt is key, right? So the prompt I used, originally I used the word location. Then I added key, and then I thought, oh no, let me use the word button. And I use all three. And then it comes up with that. And so it, it allow or decline. So I'm going to say allow. And just like that, the power of once you know what actually you can do with Lovable, it becomes so easy to do. So we're gonna end shortly, and we're gonna let it build the backend, and we're gonna upload this fake sample transcript that I create, and we're gonna see what it produces, right? And then that
I'm very
probably
curious.
should be enough. Okay, great. So Lovable Cloud is now
Very
connected.
cool.
Now it's gonna see. It also gives you prompts, right? Add real transcription. Now I could click that button there, and but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna prompt it. So now work on creating real functionality of transcription. So I can upload a sample transcript and the report functionality. So I can upload a sample transcript and see the actual PDF summary part. So that's why I didn't want to click add real transcription, because the transcription is a separate feature to the PDF card. And so sometimes one of the other things that I've learned is everything is a separate action, right? Like within when you're building products. So seeing it separate is really important. Updating the front end as well, okay? Because you did Lovable Shipped as well. What did you build actually when
Mhm.
you were doing this?
Well, of course, I started with the most complex thing I could have chosen. I wanted to build a mentorship platform. So that was the idea from the very beginning, because I have seen, and I have actually, I did a lot of market research on what are the different mentorship platforms, and there was not one that I was like, this is my favorite one. There were like features from different ones that I want that, but I also want that. So it was very difficult. I did have an MVP at the end, which was 6 weeks. So it took me 2 weeks to just even get to used to the tool, and I was very much like, oh, I'm not technical enough. I probably shouldn't be doing this. And then I started seeing others building, like different platforms, and I knew that they were not engineers. So I got some motivation from like a good old social learning of seeing others building stuff. And yeah, I had a no, I'm not saying it's the best mentoring platform, but it was an MVP, and it was working at the end, which was amazing to see.
Did you
So,
feel proud? Like you could see it like it.
oh yes. And I have built so many different things ever since. So like my own website, and like just portfolios and simple tools, and yeah, a lot of different things. So highly recommend playing around with it for like different projects that you have, or just ideas, whether it's applications or websites or different tools. All right, let's see, what did you get?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's
So now we
try now. So I'm gonna try and click upload. Uh so the other thing that we could potentially build is a drag and drop where you could actually paste, sorry, I should say, the actual transcript. So because I'm not gonna mess around with that, I am just gonna go ahead and in the background you can't see it because I'm only sharing my web browser screen, but
Oh yeah, you're just going to
Create a Word
get
doc.
it into a
Yeah,
TXT.
TXT
Yeah,
or a
or
Word
Word
doc.
doc, yeah.
So just give me a second while I just paste that really
No
cool
worries.
sample transcript actually um, into Word document. I'm really excited to see whether it comes out with something that's worthwhile. And to be honest with you, Lovable really hasn't let me down before. So, and this use case is very, it sounds complex, but it's actually among the most simplest things. Where there's no human interaction or where there's no video or sort of conferencing where you need streaming and things like that, this kind of stuff becomes really much more manageable.
We
Ah,
will cut this out,
so
so it's okay.
that's probably the first thing. So I think because it's not TXT, sorry, if you see the two
Oh,
formats, it's not picking up Word doc.
yeah.
Now I could go back and I could change that, but see that's a good example of where uh, the first bug that I picked out. So what I'm gonna do is
But you can download it as
yeah,
TXT
exactly. I'm just
from
gonna
a
convert
Word,
the
no?
file as a TXT.
So you have to make sure that whatever file format
Yeah,
you add in, so whether it's TXT or something else.
it is much easier to work with TXT files because they're just so less on memory. Okay, great. So upload the
Perfect.
transcript, continue the context. So this is where, if you remember, we wanted that form. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Hmm.
say that I'm a infrastructure engineer. So I'm in audience. What is so
I'm curious whether it picks up anything that you should or should not say to a VP of
yeah.
business
Well,
development.
that's
Whether that adds any kind of,
exactly.
suggestion or anything.
Yeah, that's what we could do, right? That's how we can build more and more features. Like, so if you want to speak to senior
Mhm.
executives and leaders, how can it sound more strategic in language, etc. And what I could do is I can. This is where we can get it can get more expert level. So I can build an algorithm, right, which will say look for these type of things, street language, give it my model and framework, and train the AI. So at this moment in time, we haven't done any of that training because the AI is good enough for the simplistic thing, I think, to be able to test and analyze communication. So let's go
See.
analyze. Wow, look at this.
Oh, look at that. Jargon used 28% of content. Professional level complexity.
Okay. So instead of terms found, it says
Yeah.
zero jargon term, which obviously doesn't match 28%. So that's the first bug that we're gonna have to fix. Alignment with audience partially aligned. Now, the AI, Lovable, and the AI
Interesting.
behind the scenes has a logic, what we would call a logic or an algorithm behind this alignment. And this is the final thing. I'm gonna teach a couple of extra things in here. I love this. Look at this complexity spectrum. Beautiful.
Very cool. Oh, you asked it to have this like five level of difficulty, which is great.
Yeah, it's really done. And we could change the file levels of difficulty. So insights.
Oh, you can go down and I think there you will. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So key observations. Upload a transcript file. What's this? The air analyze. So I don't know what this is for, right? Because that's not key observation. That's something
Yeah,
else.
that's
But recommendations. Uh, could you explain your main point to a 12-year-old? Which jargons are truly necessary? Okay, so at the moment, this insight section isn't really working. So we need to debug that a little bit more. Jargon terms detected. It hasn't really done that.
interesting. It didn't pick up. Yeah, it
Yeah,
didn't pick up. And it didn't, did it pick up the transcript itself? So I'm wondering whether that's the issue. It's
yeah,
that,
exactly. So what I'm going to do as a final prompt, and the best thing to do is take screenshots. So I'm just taking a screenshot here, and I'm going to say the AI doesn't work. It didn't pick up jargon words, even though let's say is 28% of jargon is used. Yeah. So I'm gonna just copy and paste that image in to the, oh, where is that? Normally it should just drag and drop. I'm just gonna put that in. Take that from my gallery. Oh, not sure why it's not doing, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, you might have to just zoom out a bit so you can see the chat window and the
Yeah, no
preview as
problem.
well.
So I did that image. I'm also gonna say, the way to speak to Lovable to ChatGPT is like you're speaking to a person, right? So take a look at the jargon tab after insights as well, and you'll see that no jargon terms are listed. Now, to give it a further prompt to know what it's looking for, I'm gonna go and pick a jargon term from the actual transcript. And so remember that P99 term that we
P95,
P95.
yes.
So
I think.
yeah, I think you're right. SLO violations and P99 or 95. So I'm gonna give those two examples because we don't want to make it too difficult for the coach to Lovable, like P95 or SLO violations. Correct this. So here's what we're gonna do. Yeah, first plan how you correct this. Yeah, don't execute.
Nice. Mhm.
So that's what we learned from before. So what it's going to do now, it's going to not act on anything. It's now going to search for what's actually going wrong. And you can use terms like investigate what's happened, why this has happened, and report back. Sometimes I say, you're not giving me the right answer. Step back and reanalyze this. Like really like interesting phrases. So analysis complete. The problem, there's a disconnect between the edge function and the front end. So back end and front end basically. Looking at the code, jargon terms. So it's telling you what the actual issues are, right? So jargon terms is not matching. The structure, root cause, the AI prompt in the edge function likely isn't consistently returning the terms. Propose fix 3 parts. Improve the AI prompt, add fallback extraction, add logging to debug. So we will say yes, go ahead. Now, this is where it will take a bit of time because it's probably going to take another 10 minutes to correct this. But what you can see is a really good starting point. And what I would then do is think about what is the most important to me. I wouldn't think about these two things there, like complexity level and that. I would go straight to the core jargon terms. That's what I really want to fix. And then take it from there. I don't know if you want me to go through anything else, Clara, but
No, I think it's fine, and like it clearly shows that the first version you have to test it out. You have to kind of like give feedback and say this is what I like, this is what I don't like. It's not working properly, like make sure that you pick up the jargon terms, etc. I think it's a very good V1, and I have a hunch that it's because you did plan it out before, and you didn't just start in Lovable to like, oh yeah, build me a tool. But very curious to see where you will bring this. And like what we usually do after the build is just like reflecting on how was the experience. Was there any like big aha moments while building this that you're like, okay, this is how I would do this differently next time, maybe?
yeah, I think what I've probably realized is not maybe take stuff that I've already built and take it in. I've got to start from a blank slate, right? So that's useful because then you see it completely from the user's perspective. Sometimes it's helpful to go on past experiences, but sometimes it isn't. The other thing that I probably would do differently is maybe have a few more things ready, like in advance. So the sample transcript, etc. I think a little bit more about the flow from the user's perspective, but also from like because there's another side to this. So how is the coach in my case gonna use it? But I think, because I've been doing this for a while, I would say that on the whole, it's kind of broadly where I think we were gonna land. And I think,
Nice.
pretty pleased with that. But it's just the time that it takes to get to where you need to. But it is really like it is really beneficial. So I wouldn't I wouldn't assume things like from my past experience would work with this app as well. So you gotta almost kind of customize it.
Nice. I just have a couple of the closing
Yeah.
questions. How would you? I mean, I think there's one other thing. If someone is starting out now, what is your suggestion to them? How to approach this?
So if they're using like if they want to build or use AI, basically, the first thing I would say is why, and I'd get clear on, are you just experimenting? And ideally, if you can get an existing use case, some of the best businesses and product ideas outside of AI, think of automobiles, think of social media, think of a cream that is great for babies with rough skin or whatever. Some of the best products are invented by people who have faced that pain point themselves. They go out looking for a product or an idea, they can't find it, a bit like you with the mentoring platform, they can't find it, so they build it themselves. And that's the best way to do. If you've got an existing use case, I was struggling for ideas in the beginning. Why? Because I was trying to just say, I've got a tool, I want to build something. But I wasn't sitting down and saying, but what are my own pain points? What do I use in my everyday life? So that's what I would say to people. If you're going to start building something, think about what would work, what would you use it for? Because then you're the customer. You know the pain points in and out more than anybody.
That's such a good point, and I agree. I think that it's much easier to like try to solve one of your own problems first, and then you can build for other problems, or build solutions for other problems as
Love
well.
that.
Okay, complete this sentence. I wish the learning and development industry would.
I wish we would learn a lot more about customers' needs and be a lot more customer focused. It's a different way of saying aligning to
Mm.
business goals. I think aligning to business goals is a very woolly term. But if you say, why does the business exist? Why in L&D? Why do we do training? Why do we deliver workshops? Why do we resolve and try and close performance gaps? Is because at the other end of it, there's something that needs to be delivered to customers, whether you're a charity. So I wish we would understand and simplify things a lot more. Uh, because simplicity is going to be key. I can imagine L&D colleagues getting very like lost, and I don't blame them to an extent, but getting very lost in this. And I think sometimes we make things a bit too complex. So simplifying things, being much more customer focused, using business language, which is obviously key as L&D tries to demonstrate the value of what we do, right? Like how do we move from being training providers, suppliers, cost centers to being an engine that really drives growth for the business. I think being customer focused can really help with that, as well as keeping things really, really simple.
Great. Okay, what is your message to your peers who feel overwhelmed by AI?
I would say start small, experiment, like with anything you did for the first time, whether you went skiing, which I love, by the way, courtesy of my wife. You take your first step and you gradually build your confidence. Confidence is built, it doesn't happen overnight. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, get clear on your use case, then start to build your thinking and your strategy from there. It is like anything, learning by doing. So the more you play around with it, the more you'll get out of it. Don't sit on the sidelines and profess and say, hey, we need this, we need that. Oh, I'm scared of this and I'm scared of that, when you haven't really used it. It's like trying, and there's people out there who not just L&D, but outside, who will worry about AI but haven't really fully explored it. Also, test and use a bit of critical thinking in the outputs that you get from AI and what you're also reading in the media around the impact of AI, because it's not just all doom and gloom. There are some benefits as well.
Right, last question. What is the next thing that you're building?
Interesting. I think probably finishing this thing off, this jargon buster, but also I really believe heavily in a record and review as a practice, very, very practical. Because I'm in the communication space, you'd be surprised that only less than 10% of people have actually ever heard their voice back. Yet many of us rely on communication skills. Just because we're adults and we can talk doesn't mean we know how to communicate. So I want to resolve this gap where we get more comfortable with hearing ourselves back. So I make music on the side, and you have to have a good ear to listen to your voice back as well. So I I used to hate my own voice. I still do to an extent, but I want to build a record and review platform, a bit an extension and a different play on what we've just done, where you can actually store your records and reviews. You can hear yourself back. It becomes an actual practice, just like you might edit, draft your emails, and use Grammarly for your written text. This will help you polish the way you verbally speak. So something along those lines.
You might have to come back and show us how you built it. Okay, thank you so much. This was great, super fun. Thank you for bringing your courage. I think that's exactly what we were hoping to have in this space, to have people come in and say like, yeah, I will build this live, and let's see whether it's working or not working. And that's the whole deal about building with AI.